Hi everybody, welcome back to the Live Your Life series brought to you by myself, Bree Milas, as well as the Who I Am Foundation. If you've been joining me for some of the videos so far, or maybe last year when we did the series, you know the whole purpose behind this series is to drop some weekly motivation into your life and just give you some tips and tricks on ways in which you can live a life with fulfillment and hopefully live out the purpose and desires that you have for yourself. So far, what we've talked about is just kind of checking in with ourselves. What are the things that we're doing well in our life? What are some of the things that are working really well for us? As well as what are some of those areas in which we wish to improve upon? And what are some ways that we can truly assess to determine and figure out what we need to do to make those areas a little bit better? Last week, we focused more on our overall vision for our lives. Where do we see ourselves in the future? And then we broke it down more specifically into coming up with some SMART goals for ourselves, making sure that we're setting specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely goals to be able to accomplish whatever that vision is we have for ourselves. This week, we're focusing on one of my favorite topics, which is building a strong foundation. In order to be able to fulfill those goals that you have set for yourself, it's very important to make sure that you have a strong foundation in place. If you don't have a strong foundation, it's going to be really difficult to be able to maintain that momentum and keep moving forward. So you need a really strong springboard to make sure that you have something to bounce off of to be able to propel into those goals and move into that vision that you have for yourself. So my favorite part about talking about having a strong foundation is talking about self-care. I hope many of you may be familiar with this term, but if not, I'm really happy to be able to share with you a little bit more insight to what self-care is, why it's valuable, and why it is important. With any foundation, when it comes to ourselves, especially with self-care, you really have to be mindful of the emotional, the physical, and mental overall well-being of yourself. So self-care can really feed into each of those different aspects and areas of your life to ensure that you are having a great overall well-being. The reason why this is important is because, I say this a lot, you can't pour from an empty cup. You know, last week and the week before, I talked a lot about ways in which we are so aware of the things that we do well in our life. There are so many things that we may do better than other people, but there are going to be other things that people are always going to do better than us. I like to think of those as our own talents, our gifts, the skills that we have that make us unique individuals in our life. I think it's very important to share those unique talents, skills, and abilities with others, but you also need to know that you can't really fully share those things with other people if you're not fueling yourself, if you're not feeding into yourself, if you're not pouring into yourself, because you're not going to have the energy to be able to give up to others what you have to give. So I need you to give to yourself in order to be able to share your incredible talent, your incredible skills with the rest of this world, because we need you. You matter and you are important. So in order to know how important you are, in order for the rest of the world to know how important you are, you need to make sure that you are establishing daily little routines, daily tasks, different things in your life to ensure that you are pouring into yourself to feel fulfilled in order to pour into others and give back to this world. So a lot of times when it comes to self-care, people sometimes feel like, oh, self-care, that sounds kind of selfish. But I really want you to try to reframe the idea of self-care being selfish and imagine it being self-full. You are fulfilling yourself, right? Like I said, you're pouring into yourself, you're filling yourself up. And it's important to fill yourself up, like I mentioned earlier, so you can pour into others. The more you work on yourself, the more you invest into your care for yourself, the more you have to give to other individuals here. And you can't give what you don't have, right? So this is why it's important to focus on our overall well-being, physically, emotionally, and mentally. So I really want you to stop and think of what are some ways that you feel maybe you're already doing and engaging in self-care. Maybe you have 20 minutes a day where you just stop, you get off your phone, you get away from everyone, Maybe you just have some quiet time. Last week, we talked a lot about journaling. Maybe this is where you take some time to journal. You unload your thoughts. You're really working on what's happening in your mind mentally, kind of letting go of some of those things, those feelings that you may be holding on to. That's a really good way of putting yourself first, taking some time to unwind and decompress. Maybe if you're like me, I love to take baths. I like really relaxing baths. I want bubbles, I want bath bombs, I'll light a candle, I'll play some really good music. It's relaxing, it's rejuvenating, and it's just time for me to unwind, relax, not think, and just rest and really feel like I can pour back into myself and fill myself up. It's extremely valuable to be able to have that downtime, especially if you're someone who lives a pretty busy day-to-day life. Just 20 minutes a day to yourself can make the biggest difference. And it doesn't have to be journaling. It doesn't have to be taking a bath. It can be going for a drive. It could be treating yourself to a coffee. It could be painting your nails. It could be cooking, making your favorite meal, watching a TV show, just something that you feel better after you've done. It can be a really small task, like I said, just a quick 20 minutes a day, but I really want you to stop and think of ways in which you can allot yourself just a small increment of time a day to refuel, to refill, and replenish yourself. Really, give back some of that energy that you may have utilized throughout your day. And I really hope you understand how important this is for you. Again, remember, it's being self-full that is important. It's not a matter of selfish, and self-care can lead to filling ourselves back up. So on top of that, another way to feel a greater sense of contentment, a good way to feel self-fulfilled after engaging in some self-care is really thinking about what are some things that bring you joy in your life? What are some things that spark joy, right? For lack of a better terms. But really, this could be anything, right? It could be music, it could be dancing, it could be a hobby. For me, I am an avid indoor cyclist. I teach indoor cycling on the side. I love being an indoor cycling instructor. It's so much fun. And I can't tell you the number of times where I have had a really busy day at work or just a lot of things going on with myself personally, and I have just felt so overwhelmed, tired, exhausted, and my mind is going a million different directions. And the minute I step into that cycling room, the minute I get on that bike, the lights are dark, the music is blasting, adrenaline is pumping, I just zone out and I pour into myself. Because that is 1 hour for me to just unwind, relax, decompress, and just focus on myself. I am fueling myself by giving myself energy, increasing my endorphins by working out, and that's how I'm giving back to myself physically, mentally, and emotionally all at once. It all happens on that bike in that cycling room, and I can't speak for that enough. And it could be exercise for you as well. It could be going on a walk. It doesn't have to be riding a bike. It could be going on a hike. I love hiking as well. And just being in touch with nature can really allow you to decompress, unwind, and just be really appreciative for what you have. It's a great way to clear your mind. Like I said, it could be reading a book. But what are those things that make you happy? You already have a really good idea about, what makes you smile, what brings joy to your day. Sometimes I like to just buy flowers for myself and put them out on my desk, put them out in the kitchen, because when I see those, it makes me happy. I think it looks nice. If you're working remotely, maybe sometimes you need to just take your laptop and go sit outside somewhere, have that fresh air. Again, it could be anything that makes you happy, makes you smile. So really stop and think about, what are the things that inspire you? And how can you make sure that you're implementing and sprinkling just a little bit of that inspiration in your day-to-day? Because the more that you incorporate this into your regular routine, your daily life, the more you're pouring into yourself, the more fulfilled you're going to feel, and the more energy you are going to have to be able to carry on and live out the rest of your days and have that strong foundation. Because at the end of the day, this is your life, right? And you are just as valuable as all of the other things that are a part of your life, if not more. So if you don't focus on yourself, if you don't fuel yourself, you won't be able to succeed in those other areas that you have a vision, you have goals and achievements and desires that you want to move forward on and you want to succeed in. But you won't be successful in them if you don't have that strong foundation. So this is why self-care is so important. This is why it's so valuable. And this is why you matter, because you are just as important as all these other things happening in your life. So I really want you to really envision that. I really want you to think of things that make you smile. I want you to think about ways in which you can just allot a short period of time every single day to yourself. And like I said, it can be whatever it is you want it to be. It's just a matter of making a little bit of that space in your day-to-day life to help you come to the realization that you matter and refilling yourself is very valuable. So going off of that, once you kind of have a good sense of what makes you happy, what makes you smile, you know that you matter, self-care is important, how are you going to incorporate this into your life regularly? So like I said, I think daily is very feasible. And when I say feasible, that's because I'm saying 20 minutes a day. Even if it is exercise, you can go outside and just walk for 20 minutes, right? It doesn't have to be a whole hour. You don't have to go somewhere. You don't have to take a class or anything like that. It could be just taking a quick shower. Maybe it's, calling a friend. I think thinking about people who inspire us can be just as, fulfilling. It can be just as motivating to speak to someone who makes us happy. And sometimes, we just need to talk to someone and vent and let them know what's going on in our life. Or also it's helpful to ask those people who, again, who are doing the right thing, they're on the right track. Let them be part of your foundation. Let those individuals be your support group. So maybe it's taking some time to chat with a friend, 20 minutes a day. And it doesn't have to be the same thing every day either, right? One day it could be you're going to take a bath. The next day it could be you're going to work out. The next day it could be you're going to get a coffee for yourself. The next day it could be I'm going to cook my favorite dinner tonight. Whatever it is that you need to do to feel fulfilled, do those things. I'm someone who really enjoys kind of listening to different podcasts. For me, I find it a good way just to kind of stay in touch with different things that are of interest to me. I also feel like I'm learning from those moments. I'm taking away. And I think that's another form of self-care within itself, right? It's very important to stay educated, but that's another way to pour into yourself. Again, you want to make sure that you are constantly moving forward as an individual in your life. So, like I said before, if we're going to give to others, if we're going to share our skills, talents, and abilities with others, we have to make sure that we are brushing up on our skills, our talents, and abilities as well, right? We can't just keep giving, and not making sure that we're practicing on our skills. We're increasing and enhancing the skills that we already have, because that's just as important. So maybe it's listening to a podcast, drinking some more water, eating your favorite food, returning a missed call, reaching out to that friend, whatever it is. I want you to think about ways in which you can do that. I'm going to challenge you to do it 20 minutes a day, a different thing every single day, or it could be the same thing too. If that's too much, that is completely fine. I totally understand. Everyone's schedules look different, but you are still very important and you still matter. So if that's too much, maybe think about a way in which you can dedicate some time for self-care weekly. And if you can't get those 20 minutes in a day, then maybe if it's only going to be one time a week, you can increase that time increment, right? So maybe it could be 1 hour a week that you solely dedicate to yourself to do something for you that brings you joy. If that's too much, maybe bi-weekly, 2 times a month. That's it, right? That's all I'm asking for. Maybe you like to shop, so you buy yourself a shirt or something that you've really been wanting. And if that's too much, maybe it's something you do once a month. Again, maybe you go and out to your favorite store and buy a few things, or maybe you go visit someone that you've really been missing and wanting to see, or maybe you just go on a little trip for yourself. But again, it doesn't even have to be anything that big, but I want you to start to think of ways in which you can incorporate regular self-care into your routine, daily, weekly, or monthly. It just needs to be a priority, and I want you to actually physically write down on a calendar, in a planner, somewhere on a schedule that you will dedicate some self-care to yourself within the next month, okay? Whatever it is that you want for yourself, you are going to do it. When it comes to, having that self-care, making sure that we're actually incorporating it into our lives, we can get caught up in the day-to-day. It's very easy. But when you start making it a priority, that is when you will realize that you really need that time. You really grow from having that time to re-energize yourself, to pour into yourself, to fuel yourself, to be able to give back to others. So I really, really challenge you to figure out what it is that you like to do to feel better, to be a better person in order to impact people and fulfill your dreams, your visions, your desires, and your goals. And with self-care, a lot of that really comes down to being honest about who you are with yourself. Really stopping to think about, how much do I care about myself? How much value do I have to this world? And am I overlooking some problems in my life? Am I taking care of myself? And where are those significant gaps and areas in which I can improve upon pouring into who I am as a person to be a better person? Lastly, I just want to leave you with a reminder that you are valuable, you are worth the time, you are worth the energy. And just think, how much energy does it require you to get through your week? I want you to really try to come up with a number of how many hours a week you feel like you spend, whether it's working or pouring into others. And that just means, completing tasks and being available to other individuals who may rely on you. And now I want you to stop and ask yourself, how many hours out of your week do you pour into yourself? How many hours a week, how much time a week do you really prioritize yourself? I'm pretty sure the number of hours that you pour into yourself, that you prioritize yourself, are way lower than the number of hours that you pour into other things in your life. And that's fine, because that's going to be normal, right? But that's why it's incredibly valuable to make sure that you are utilizing some time throughout your week, sometime during your month, to refuel and re-energize. So with that being said, I hope you find some ways in which you can pour into yourself this week. I'd love to hear about them. Please leave some comments. Please give me some suggestions on things you'd like to hear, maybe talk about, and share some of those tips and tricks on ways that you prioritize your self-care. What works well for you? Next time, we're going to talk about cleaning up your life. So what are some ways that we can get rid of all the little chaos and obstacles that may be in place to make sure that we are making time for ourselves, our visions, and our goals? Thank you so much again. I hope you all have a really good week, and hopefully I'll see you next week.